Welcome to the GCIC Baraza, a platform that brings you discussions on critical issues surrounding service delivery in Uganda. In today's episode, we will explore current status of the HIV/AIDS epidemic in Uganda and discuss the progress made in addressing this public health challenge. With us to expand more on this is Dr. Nelson Musova, the Director General of Uganda AIDS Commission. Doctor, in light of the global target to end AIDS by 2030, what specific strategies and interventions is the Uganda AIDS Commission implementing to accelerate progress towards this goal?
Thank you for that question. First of all, it's important for our viewers and listeners to understand the definition of ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. Because by 2030, the people who are HIV positive will still be with us because there is no cure. But when we say ending AIDS as a public health threat by 2030, it means that there will be zero new infections, there will be zero AIDS-related deaths, and there will be zero stigma and discrimination. So that is what it means. And as a country, we signed to this commitment in 2016. And in 2017, the president launched the Presidential Fast Track Initiative to really accelerate and add more momentum to what is being done. So there are a different set of interventions that government has put in place, including HIV prevention interventions, awareness campaigns, HIV counseling and testing, prevention of mother-to-child interventions for the pregnant mothers, ensuring that for HIV-positive mothers, they are able to prevent their babies from getting HIV, pre-exposure prophylaxis for those at risk of acquiring infections from their sexual partners who may be in a discordant relationship, or maybe you engaged in a situation where it puts you at high risk of getting infected. So you are started on this treatment so that in the event that you have a sexual encounter with somebody who is HIV infected, they are prevented. But there is also working with other stakeholders who have access, who can put out the message to the population. And this includes leaders, it includes faith-based leaders, the bishops, the reverends, the imams in the mosques, working with young people and the Ministry of Education to ensure that messages go out through schools, to young people about abstinence. The ABC campaign is one of the awareness campaigns that we are running. So there's a whole range of interventions from HIV awareness to HIV testing and counseling to those who are found to be HIV positive being put on treatment, to going into communities and working through institutions like schools to ensure that the message is out there, and so that people can take an HIV test and they can adopt measures that do not put them at risk.
Can you share any recent achievements or milestones in Uganda's efforts to combat HIV/AIDS and move closer to the target of ending AIDS by 2030?
Yes, the Uganda AIDS Commission is just finalizing a mid-term review of the National HIV Strategic Plan that runs from 2020-21 to 2024-25. And it shows that the results show that we are on track for achieving what is known as 95-95-95. This means that 95% of people living with HIV have taken a test and know their HIV status. That's the first 95. The second 95 means that 95% of those who take a test and turn out HIV positive are enrolled on treatment. And the third 95 means that 95% of those who enroll adhere. So out of the 395, for the first one, we are at 92% out of 95. Remember, this is midterm. We expect to achieve that result by 2025. For the second 95, we are at 92 also. And for the third 95, we are at 94. So we are on track to achieve the 95. There are still challenges around retention. For example, those who enroll on treatment, By the 12th month, when they are followed up, we are at 74. So it means people start treatment, but they don't maintain. So we need to follow up and make sure that, find out, first of all, what is making them not come back. Have they just shifted to another facility? And also, here is ensuring that those who are taking treatment take it consistently so that there is vital suppression. But we are on track to achieve the 95 by 2025.
What are the main challenges or obstacles that Uganda currently faces in achieving the goal of ending AIDS by 2030? How is Uganda AIDS Commission addressing these challenges?
One of the challenges that we are facing is the complacency, and although the level of awareness should be high, but we find that comprehensive knowledge, especially amongst young people, you don't know how to HIV transmitted, how do you prevent yourself, that seems to be low. And that is why there is a ramped up campaign to increase awareness. The second challenge is stigma and discrimination. That despite Uganda fighting the AIDS epidemic for the last 40 years, there's still stigma and discrimination. People are hesitant because of the nature of how HIV is transmitted. Majority of it is sexually transmitted and associated with immorality. People are not keen, to come out. They will be condemned by society, and therefore that keeps people away, first of all, from seeking, testing services, and therefore there is delay in starting treatment, and it means that we keep getting new infections. And the third one is funding, that both the health sector, but also HIV and AIDS specifically, remains predominantly donor funded, and that makes prioritization difficult. It means that you can't put the funding in all the areas that you'd like to. And that is, the government has started, increasing its funding towards HIV and AIDS, but that is another area where there is a challenge and could, slow down our goal of ending AIDS by 2030.
Can you provide an overview of the recently held International AIDS Candlelight Memorial in Uganda? What was the significance of this event in raising awareness about HIV/AIDS?
Now, the Candlelight Memorial Day is an international day that Uganda uses. It's held every third week of May, and we use it, one, to commemorate and remember those who have passed due to AIDS, but also continue to provide hope to those who are living, to spread awareness, to use it as a platform, pass on information to Uganda's population that HIV is still here with us, that there is no cure, and there is no vaccine, but that if you're found HIV positive, there is hope. You can start a treatment, although it is lifelong treatment. If you take your treatment consistently, then you're able to live a normal life. So we used that day to put out messages. We focused mainly on young people, and that is why even the choice of location, we had Chitante Primary School. We worked with young people to have an inter-school debate, about HIV and AIDS, and we used that to make sure that information gets passed across to the young people. There's still a risk out there, and they mean for the young people who are not yet sexually active, they should abstain until the right time. And for those who are adults, the young adults who are in relationships, they should be faithful to their partners. And if you must, and you're not sure of the sero status of your partner, or you are in a sero discordant relationship, then you can use a condom. But the other message was that go and take a test, know your HIV status, and make the right decision, either to remain negative, to be negative, or to start up treatment if you're HIV positive. So that's largely what we use the candlelight for, and we use that for other advocacy events to ensure that we keep the message alive and we continue to inform Ugandans about where we are and how to minimize the risk of HIV.
How is the Uganda AIDS Commission addressing the issue of stigma and discrimination towards people living with HIV/AIDS in this country? What measures are being taken to promote a more inclusive and supportive society?
One of the things we've done is that we've developed anti-stigma national policing guideline. Defining what stigma is, educating how it is, manifests, and how those who feel stigmatized can come out of that situation. And we had this rolled out for local governments, because one way to deal with stigma is equipping people with information, both those who are stigmatized so that they get empowered, but even those who stigmatize others, once they know how HIV is transmitted, how you prevent yourself from getting HIV, they know that you don't get HIV by being close to someone, by shaking their hand, by simply sharing, space with them, then that should be able to reduce it. So we've had the anti-stigma policy widely disseminated, but we've also worked with people living with HIV to ensure that they provide testimonies. They talk about their own lives, because we have many people out there who are lawyers, who are doctors, young people in productive engagements, although living with HIV. So once this come out and speak, then the rest of the population realizes and says, okay, you can have HIV, but you can still be productive. We have a group of young people called Indiba, who have organized the beauty pageant across the country, again, as a method of fighting stigma. But being well aware that this shouldn't be used to promote complacency. But it's the policy, it's through that policy that's widely disseminated. We have a stigma steering committee, an anti-stigma steering committee here based at the Graduates Commission. We have an equity steering committee as well. So there are active measures, but also the main strategy is through dissemination of messages to ensure that people have information, and that way they will not stigmatize others or feel stigmatized themselves.
And are there any innovative approaches or programs that the Uganda AIDS Commission is implementing to reach key affected populations or remote areas?
Yes, so the categories, like you pointed out, we have categories: people living with HIV who are more vulnerable than the others because of the nature of how they live, and they find it difficult to go and access services because of stigma again. Just talk. So one way is to have the Minister of Health has designed what is known as differentiated service delivery models, that you reach specific population groups based on the needs of that population group. One group, among the key affected populations and vulnerable populations are the women involved in sex work. That by nature of what they do, they are out into the night, they are out on the street. So what the Ministry of Health and the partners do is provide, services, HIV testing services outside the normal hours. Or if you're doing work, distributing condoms, you have to take these to the clients where they're trained, where you have to find them. But also ensuring that services like drug access to medicines and drugs can be taken either through the pharmacies within the communities or agreed community distribution points, or sometimes their medicines may be picked by other people for them. But also there is the multi-mother dispensing, that someone doesn't have to come to a health facility unless they have either something that requires laboratory monitoring or the condition has developed. So that way, if you're able to reach all these population groups, they can keep on doing what they do, but still are able to access the services. So the differentiated service delivery model, as designed by the Ministry of Health, is one approach that has ensured that everyone can access the services despite all the barriers that may appear in this.
What steps are being taken to strengthen the healthcare system in Uganda to ensure sustainability and continuity in the HIV/AIDS response beyond 2030?
So one of them is just what I've spoken about, the differentiating services and ensuring that as the health system plans for services, they have the client in mind that, will decongest the health facility. And you only have those who need to come at the facility are the ones who should come. But also integration is the other one, that as you go out there to deliver services, you do not tell the clients that they come and for HIV services, maybe tomorrow you can come back to check for diabetes, then the other day to screen for cancer. You have, an integrated approach, and somebody can come to a facility. Or if you go out provide a service, you can consult for other diseases, whether it's the non-communicable diseases, whether it is HIV, whether it's tuberculosis, or the other conditions. So integration is one sustainable approach. And the differentiated service delivery is the other. But we also have what we call the Uganda AIDS Commission is championing what is known as HIV mainstreaming. We require all government departments and agencies to make HIV part of their work. That if you move through every government ministry or agency, there should be an HIV focal person, there should be a committee, there should be a plan that identifies the risks of those employees and then the communities that they interact with, and they have interventions, to ensure that the providers are protected. So you can see if it's part of your overall development strategy for a given sector or department, that is a sustainable approach to ensure that, you're not just looking at a given timeline, but every day you're ensuring that am I people protected? Where are they heading to? They know the risks. And will they ensure that they protect themselves and the community they are going to work with in this process?
Looking forward, what are the next steps and priorities for the Uganda AIDS Commission in its journey towards ending AIDS by 2030?
We are focusing on coordination, ensuring that every stakeholder, the different ministries, departments, agencies, every player is given information, is aware of these issues, and they hold themselves personally responsible, both for themselves, but for the close loved ones out there, for their partners, for their offsprings, their siblings, within the communities. If you're in a school setting, let's take it as a personal responsibility, not just to know our HIV status, but also to look out for others and not stigmatize them. If we find people with HIV, let's support them, let's protect them, just work with them to ensure that they access help where they can. And that should be expected.
Are there any specific initiatives or programs that will be implemented in the coming years?
We are planning another youth summit in northern Uganda, bringing several schools together and skilling the young people in schools how to protect themselves and keep themselves, It is the ABC campaign, especially around abstinence and what is known as the purity campaign. Yeah, so there's a lot going on. Probably it's not as well publicized and it's not being covered and known, but there are campaigns going on in schools, ranging from debates, but we need to do more. What you're pointing out is that probably that's not enough, and we need to continue that, scale that up, and ensure that the young people, to talk to the young people about HIV, but we also need to empower parents, because the first formative years are very important. So parents need to talk to children so that by the time they get into schools, they are hearing this information from the others. They already have the first information about what is a condom, what is sex, what happens if you have sex. It's called age appropriate but culture sensitive communication. The Ministry of Education has prepared what is known as the Sexuality Education Framework, and it was launched by the minister, who is also the first lady. And it shows you, at which stage do you communicate which information. And so if a 3-year-old asks about sex, what did you tell them? How do you tell them if it's a 5-year or if it's a 7-year or if it's, an adolescent who is beginning to physiological experience and they are asking what I'm supposed to tell them. So that guidance exists and it's available, and we can continue to popularize it and ensure that the different stakeholders know.
Okay, as we come to the end of this enlightening conversation on the progress made by Uganda in addressing HIV and AIDS, we want to thank you, our valued listeners, for tuning in and being part of this important conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Continue the discussion and stay engaged by joining us on GCIC's Twitter space. Share your thoughts, ask questions, and be a part of the ongoing efforts to create a healthier Uganda.